So, a woman's nutrition looks a little bit different at each stage of her life. Let's start off by talking about a infant or a child who is female. This infant and child needs energy, they need protein, and they need omega-3 fatty acid. But when this girl turns into a teenager in adolescence, her needs are going to look a little bit different. She still needs that energy and that protein, but now she also needs things like calcium, iron, and whole grains. It's important that a woman in adolescence gets enough fruit and vegetables. This helps decrease the risk of developing a cancer in the future. And then the need for protein builds muscles and organs. So, a teenage time is when a woman's body is developing the most. She is going through puberty and she needs to build up her muscle and her organs. She also needs energy, and this is where whole grains come into play. And then the need for iron is producing and replacing the iron that is lost with her periods. It's important that in adolescence, women do not restrict calories because this could lead to blocking ovulation and in turn stopping a woman's periods altogether and deregulating her hormones. Okay, let's move on to the 20s and the 30s. Women need protein, they need iron, and then they also need calcium and folate. It's important to watch the refined carbs that you intake, and you really want to avoid foods that are nutrient poor and also calorie dense. All of these needs can prevent against things like osteoporosis developing in the future. And then in the 40s and the 50s, women really need to make sure that they get antioxidants and calcium. They need to watch their calorie intake and their alcohol intake. In 40s and 50s, women experience a decrease in estrogen, testosterone, metabolism, and lean muscles. All this due to experiencing premenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. There's also an increased risk in breast cancer, heart disease, and other chronic conditions at this time. And that is why it's so important to avoid inflammatory foods like trans fats and even red meat, and instead replace those foods with anti inflammatory foods, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and vegetables. So, post menopause, still in the 50s, your bones become thin and flat and they absorb less calcium. So, we need protection against broken bones and protection against osteoporosis. And that's why calcium intake is so important. Okay, earlier I mentioned that women should avoid alcohol, but why is that? Well, when you drink alcohol, it actually increases your estrogen levels, which may lead to developing breast cancer. In fact, studies show that if you just have 3 alcoholic drinks a week, your risk for developing breast cancer increases by 15%. That is crazy. Okay, let's go into our last section, which is women in their 60s and in their 70s. There's a high need for omega-3 fatty acids as well as eating regular meals. So omega-3 is super great for the brain and the heart, and it's also an anti-inflammatory. And then the need for having regular meals is to keep a stable blood sugar level, as well as provide energy to women to protect against things like brain fog, which could eventually lead to dementia. Another small thing to note is if you are a pregnant woman, you really need energy, protein, omega-3 fatty acids, as well as some vitamins. You need vitamin A, you need vitamins B's, you need C, D, calcium, and zinc. And then if you are a lactating woman, you really need to emphasize your intake of vitamin D as well as iron and omega-3 fatty acid. So it looks a little bit different for women throughout her life, and what nutritional needs at each step that you actually need for your body to be as healthy and as happy as possible.